welcome to the Explainer. So if you're an engineer trying to build anything with large language models, you definitely know the feeling. The whole landscape of tools is, well, it's a chaotic mess, right? Today, we're going to look at a resource that tries to bring some much-needed order to all that chaos. Okay, so you've decided to build with an LLM. Awesome. But then, bam, the big question hits you. What's the stack? I mean, which serving framework? Which vector database? What about monitoring tools? The sheer number of choices out there is just, it can be paralyzing. And here's why it's so tough. The whole LLM tooling ecosystem is in this state of controlled chaos. It's just completely fractured. You know the drill. By the time you finish checking out one open source project, it feels like 3 new ones just dropped. And what happens? Teams end up reinventing the wheel all the time, just because there's no single place to see what's even out there, let alone figure out what problem each tool is actually supposed to solve. But what if you didn't have to just wander around lost in this crazy fragmented landscape? What if you had a map? You know, a real guide that could give you the lay of the land, showing you the big continents of tooling and all the key cities inside them. Well, that map, it exists. It's the Awesome-LLMOps repository on GitHub. Now, here's the most important thing you need to get about this repo. Its job is not to tell you which tool is the best. It doesn't rank anything. It doesn't evaluate anything. Its purpose is to be a catalog. That's it. It's a community-maintained index that shows you what's out there across the whole production lifecycle. Because, hey, before you can even think about comparing tools, you gotta know they exist in the first place, right? And listen, this isn't just some random, obscure list somebody threw together. We're talking about almost 6,000 stars on GitHub. That's a massive community signal. It tells you this is a living, breathing document. It's constantly being updated by people who are actually in the trenches doing this work every day, and that's what gives it the credibility it absolutely needs to stay relevant in a field that moves this fast. All right, so how does this map actually work? What makes it so valuable? Well, the real magic here is in its organization. It's structured around the actual stages of a production LLM system. I'm talking from model selection all the way through to monitoring and retraining. Let's dive in and take a look. And here you can see exactly how it cuts through all that complexity. The categories are just so clear and logical. You've got model for the foundational models themselves, the LLMs, computer vision models, audio, you name it. Then there's serving, which is all about infrastructure. LLMOps cover stuff like experiment tracking and prompt management, and it goes on like that for data, training, and even security. It's a really practical, functional breakdown that brings some serious clarity to a super crowded space. And this is the brilliant part. This structure isn't just some random academic exercise. It actually mirrors how real engineering teams think about this stuff, how they divide up the problem. These categories line up perfectly with the key decisions you have to make when you're building out your stack. Okay, so let's look at a couple of examples to see this in action. Because by organizing the tools this way, the list does more than just give you a bunch of names. It actually helps you start to understand the deep architectural trade-offs you're making with every choice. So let's take the serving category, for example. In there, you'll find a tool called VLLM. Its whole deal is using fancy tech like page detention to squeeze out every last drop of raw inference throughput. But right next to it, you'll see something like BentoML. Now, BentoML is way more focused on deployment ergonomics, making it easy to deploy, customize, and even offering a managed cloud option. You see? These aren't just 2 competing tools. They represent a fundamental choice. Are you going all in on pure raw performance? Or are you optimizing for ease of deployment and long-term management? The repo is also amazing for finding tools that solve very specific problems or work under certain constraints. For instance, you dig into the fine-tuning section and you find a tool called Unsloth. What does it do? It's designed specifically to help you fine-tune models on limited hardware, maybe even consumer-grade GPUs. Now, that is the kind of practical discovery that can literally save a team a huge amount of time and, let's be honest, a ton of money. But okay, like any map, you have to know how to read it properly. It's an incredibly powerful starting point, for sure. But, and this is a big but, it is not the final answer. There are some really important limitations you absolutely have to be aware of. So, first off, there's 0 evaluation criteria. A battle-tested, production-ready framework and some abandoned weekend project, they look exactly the same on the list. You have no way of knowing. Second, staleness is a very real problem. Some of these entries might be deprecated or just plain out of date. Third, the links go to the main branch of a repo, not a specific stable release, which can be a headache. And finally, remember this whole thing depends on community contributions. That means there could be coverage gaps, some cool niche tools might just not be on there yet. So, with all those caveats in mind, what's the verdict? What's the right way to actually use this thing? It really comes down to a simple two-step process. Step 1, use the repo to map the landscape, just like we've been saying. Look at the categories that matter for your project, serving, LM ops, security, whatever, and just identify the players. The goal here is to answer the question, what tools are out there that I haven't even heard of? Then step 2, go deeper. Once you have that short list of candidates, that's when your real work begins. You have to be the one to dig in, investigate the benchmarks, pour through the documentation, check the GitHub issues, and hunt down real production case studies. And really, that brings us to the single most important takeaway, and it's summed up perfectly in this quote. The index gets you to the right candidates, evaluation is still your work. And that's it right there. Awesome LLM Ops is an absolutely indispensable tool for getting your bearings, but it only empowers your decision-making. It doesn't make the decision for you. So does this map make navigating the LLM landscape any less complex? Honestly, no. But it sure does make it a whole lot less chaotic.